All right, so we got our turntable set up here. We're ready to get this out of here. The setup initially is very similar to what we did with the ball project, so let's review that. The first step is to turn on our film gate up here to see what our camera sees. So let's go ahead and click that film gate. That way we can see this, aka resolution gate. And with a turntable, you want to get front and center on the character. You generally don't want to do it orthographic. It is best to do it in perspective mode because that's how the character is going to be viewed. You might want to adjust your light accordingly. I'm going to let more front and maybe downward angle. Something like that looks nice. And we want to hit play to make sure our character stays on screen. And you'll notice right here, his little fingers go out of screen. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. You want the character to stay on screen the whole time. You don't want the character cutting in and out. And this could differ for character designs. This character is kind of long, but right there, we're hitting a sweet spot. So I think I'm good with that. I don't have any issues there. It's pretty even. Okay, so let me just check here. Check the negative space on the sides. That's good enough. And if you want to make sure you don't mess this up, remember we can use a camera bookmark up here to bookmark this exact position. So you might want to click that just in case you accidentally nudge it or you need to come back into the file. And once you're done with that, hit save. That way you have the bookmark. It'll make your life a little bit easier. Now we need to head up here to the render settings and get this ready to render out a sequence. So let's click on that to open this up. And we're going to start in the Common tab. The Common tab, once again, is how we get something out of here. So this is going to control what we're making, and that's what's important here. One of the first things to look at is the file output. It's currently using an EXR file, which are great. They're very large. We'll talk about EXRs more in depth later. They were developed by Industrial Light and Magic for specific use in the film industry. We're going to go with PNGs because this is not something we need a high-end render on. So we're going to swap that out here to a PNG render. From here, we can change out some of our settings. So you'll notice that the frame and animation extensions contained in the file output here. And remember what we want to do there is going to be name.number.extension. So once again, that's the name of the file, the frame number, and the file type in the extension. Okay, so let's set that to name.number.extension right there. Frame padding 4 is fine. Down here, we can set our start and end range. Right now, it's 1 to 10. We want this to go from 1 to our final frames, which if you remember is 150 on mine. You might have a different time. Renderable cameras. For this one, we're just doing perspective. So set that to perspective. And for this one, I encourage you to do an HD 720 render. If you would like something with a bit more longevity, feel free to do a 1080 render. Just be aware it is going to take about 3 times longer to render. Okay, so keep that in mind. It is a long time. All right, that's it. We have our setup. We're good to go. But there's a few things we want to check beforehand. So what I like to do is open up my Maya render view here, which now in 2023 is also the Arnold render view. So it doesn't matter. And make sure this is actually rendering the perspective camera. So right here is where you can swap your camera on the Arnold render, but this isn't always the case. Sometimes this will say perspective camera and it renders something else. So I always like to check this first. And just remember, we can get the render going by pressing this button. What I also like to do is render out a frame just to get a feel for how long this might take. And you can see that actually rendered out pretty quick, which is nice. It was only a 4-second render for me. Yours may be longer or shorter. Just remember that. It really depends on your computer. So what that means to me is this turntable is probably not going to take too long to kick out, which is great. I won't be waiting around forever. With that, we can just shrink this down a little bit. And we can proceed to do our render. Now, we're going to do this through the rendering menu. So we need to swap over from modeling to rendering. We need to come in here to the render menu. And you're probably thinking batch render, but you're wrong. If you click batch render doesn't actually work with Arnold currently. So talking a bit about this, in the past, batch render was the go-to for everything inside of Maya. But when Maya acquired Arnold, there was a licensing issue because Arnold was still a standalone software. And when it was integrated into Maya, there was a weird issue with the licensing where it would watermark the batch render. So what they ended up doing is adding a new setting here called render sequence. So render sequence and batch render are the same, but what this is going to do is it's going to utilize Arnold and not watermark it. Now, I don't know if that's still the case for Maya 2023, and if you're in an older or newer version of Maya, one of these may disappear, okay? So just so you're aware, but in terms of the functionality, batch render and render sequence are the same, but render sequence was put in here specifically to bypass the issue with Arnold putting a water stamp on it. Okay, so if you go ahead and click render sequence, this should initiate your batch render, and you'll see this is a little bit different because it actually pulls up a render view and it will show you each frame being rendered. So what we need to do now is just wait, but we'll be able to come into our project, into our images, and we can see each of the images being produced. Now notice the sky dome does get rendered in here, so this will be our background. But what we can do from here is we can just wait until it goes through 150 of these. So this is where the math starts to get kind of interesting. Remember how it took 4 seconds? So 4 seconds times, and this is assuming it's 4 seconds every time, times 150 is going to be 600, divided by 60 is going to be 10 minutes. Okay, so it's going to take me about 10 minutes here. This is going to take a while to render. So as a challenge, what I want you to do is set up your own render sequence for your file. So that way it can be rendering in the background while you check out the second part of this video, which is going to be turning this into a video file. So just reviewing getting this into something like After Effects or Adobe Premiere and exporting a movie. Okay, so go ahead and pause, get that set up and hit the render button, and then come back and join me and we can finish this into a video file. All right, so now that our render finished up, you can see we have all our frames here. We're going to create a folder, just right-click New Folder. We can name this Turntable, maybe robot _ turntable. And we can just click that first one, middle mouse wheel down, shift-click the last, and drag that into our robot turntable folder. So now we can open this into something that can preview turntables, and we can actually open it in either Adobe Media Encoder or After Effects. The one reason I like to open After Effects is we can preview it easier, and then we can move into Adobe Media Encoder. So we can go ahead and launch After Effects to check this out, and then we can move into our Media Encoder. All right, so now we got After Effects open. Let's go ahead and bring this in. Remember, we can just drag and drop our turntable here into our project section, and we can drag and drop this down here into our layers. And if we make this a little bit bigger so we can see this better and we hit spacebar, we can play this through just to make sure there's no issues with our turntable. And it looks good. Let me zoom out just to make sure the character doesn't go off screen. All right, and then we're ready to render this out. So we'll just come up here to Composition, add to Media Encoder Queue, and let that fire up. If you haven't opened Media Encoder Queue already, this will take a moment, so just give it some time, and then you can continue. All right, so our queue has loaded, but it hasn't found the file yet, so it may take just a moment. Just let it finish reading things in, and then we can render it. There it is. You'll see it has our renders from last time, the YouTube settings, all that good stuff. The one thing we might change is the location. So we'll swap that out. You'll see it's going into just a default folder. We'll swap to our desktop, section 4 project, movies. We could create a subfolder in here called turntables because we might have more than one depending on the project we're working on. And we might even specify character turntables, but we're not going to get that specific here. And yeah, we'll just leave this name robot model turntable 011 and save. And then we can click the play button here to render that out. This should render a lot faster than Maya did. And then we'll have a video turntable we can check out in full screen and we can loop. And this is something we could put on our portfolio if we wanted to show the character textures. So let's check that out. We'll go to the movies. I'll just double click to fire this up. In the corner here, you can click these dots and select repeat. And now it will repeat infinitely. And we can check out our turntable full screen. But there you go. That gets something out of here we can present. We can check our textures with. And we can make sure there's no really obvious errors or UV seams. So looking at this, I don't think anything stands out as needing adjustment on my end. I think I'm good to move forward with this version. So we can check out the next stages after this. So as a challenge, what I want you to do, if you have not done so yet, is go ahead and finish up your renders and then create a video file of your turntable. Create a movie file that you can share with others. You can post to your portfolio if you want, or you can just have on hand for later if you need it. All right, so go ahead and get that out of here, and then we'll move forward with the pipeline next.